It's simple, Jim. You're sorry or you did it intentionally. That's all I'm asking. I don't need... Jim, are you sorry you killed Carol? That's all I'm asking, Jim. You're sorry, aren't you?
Amanda Millie Dowler, who lived in England, was on her usual way home from school, but that day she never arrived. Her family, friends, and the police immediately began searching for her, but she was never found. What happened to Amanda that tragic day remained a mystery for many years. In our first case, we will talk about the mysterious disappearance of the young girl and the arrest of the perpetrator after many years. We will also look at the murder of Carol Hutto and the confession that came 24 years later. Brace yourselves. We're stepping into the crime scene now. We're going to Walton, a town on the south bank of the Thames River in England, for our first story. Amanda Millie Dowler was born on June 25, 1988. Her father, Bob Dowler, and her mother, Sally Dowler, were her guiding lights. She had an older sister named Gemma, and they got along well. Millie was always upbeat, making her a favorite friend in any situation. At school, her bond with her friend Hannah MacDonald grew, united by their shared passion for playing the saxophone. On March 21, 2002, Millie finished her classes and left the train station at 3 p.m. with her friend Danielle. They got off at Walton train station and decided to eat at the station's cafe before heading home. Millie called her dad to say she'd be home in an hour with Danielle, but alarmingly, only Danielle arrived, with Millie nowhere to be seen. Her family waited anxiously for Millie, but she never returned. At around 7 p.m., her dad contacted the police department to report Millie missing. The police force immediately formed a search party, consisting of numerous helicopters, many officers, and volunteers to locate Millie. The intensive search began at the station and extended to a meticulous scouring of the adjacent fields, thoroughfares, and riverbanks. Professional detectives who had handled similar cases before were called in for help. The police interviewed people who had seen Millie and her friends last to establish a sequence of events. Millie was spotted for the last time on the school's security camera, exiting the campus at 3:07 p.m. as usual. Accompanied by Danielle, she strolled to the station while the station's cameras captured the moments. Danielle had not seen Millie for a while, so she asked Millie to get off the train with her, and Millie agreed. After eating, Danielle's sister joined them as they were all supposed to head home together, yet Millie chose to walk instead. A week later, the police found out that Millie was last seen at a bus stop in Hersham at 4:22 p.m. by a school friend. After reviewing the security camera footage, the police continued their investigation. No sightings of Millie were found on the cameras during the specified times. However, a suspicious event was noticed when a red Daewoo Nexia car drove through the area and caught attention. The police tracked down the car owner and conducted an interrogation, but no connection to Millie's disappearance was established. Millie's family and the police shared updates with the media and asked for the public's help. A few sources even offered rewards. Despite these efforts, a month of searching yielded no solid leads for the police. On April 23, 2002, authorities discovered a body on the Thames River's banks in Walton and dispatched police teams to the area. Initial examinations showed that the body might have been Millie's, but it was not. It turned out to be the remains of 73-year-old Maisie Thomas, who had been missing for a year. A national newspaper offered a big reward for information, but no one came forward. On June 25, 2002, Millie turned 14, The police gave Millie's family information implying Millie might still be alive. Millie's phone was monitored and suspicious activity was detected. Her voicemails were being listened to and deleted. The Dowler family checked their phones every day, hoping for a clue. One day they noticed Millie's voicemail box was sometimes full and sometimes empty. This gave the family both hope and pain. Was Millie still alive and checking her phone? However, the reality was not what they had hoped for. There was a malevolent force at work. The media was found to have hacked Millie's phone, listening to and deleting her messages without consent. This revelation intensified the Dowler family's anguish, shattering any remaining hopes they had for their daughter. After the phone hacking scandal, the newspaper publisher provided Amanda Millie Dowler's family with compensation of $2 million. This event sparked a major scandal in the United Kingdom, causing public uproar over ethical lines crossed by the media. On September 18, 2002, mushroom gatherers near Hampshire found human remains in Yadley Heath Woods and immediately called 911. The police arrived quickly to investigate, and dental records confirmed that the remains belonged to Millie Dowler. The cause of death could not be determined due to decomposition. A team of experts, including specialists in pollen, investigated the wooded region. They determined that the remains had been present for around 6 months based on the surrounding plants. Millie's possessions and cell phone were missing at the location. Discovering this, the Dowler family was devastated after months of hopeful anticipation for their daughter's return. Unfortunately, their wish did not come true. The news widely reported Millie's death, and countless people mourned her passing. Millie's memorial service was held on March 21, 2003, and her funeral was held at Joaquin Crematorium. The police reopened the investigation, known as Operation Ruby, a year after Millie disappeared. On November 22, 2002, investigators conducted a thorough search in the location where Millie's body was discovered. Around 6,000 drivers were questioned, but no new leads were found. Initially, the police suspected Millie's father, though their suspicion was based on circumstantial evidence rather than any solid history of the family's involvement in similar cases. However, they later dismissed these suspicions and apologized to the family. On March 23, 2003, they discovered unknown male DNA on a piece of clothing in the Dowler's bedroom, suggesting that the killer may have known Millie. Yet, this theory was swiftly dismissed. Millie's sister received threatening letters that blamed her for Millie's death, causing more grief for the family. The letters were sent by Paul Hughes, a man already in custody for unrelated offenses. He was sentenced to 5 years after being found guilty of issuing death threats, but he falsely confessed to the murder. He only did it to draw attention to himself. The authorities apologized for not detecting the letters before they were received by the sister. In 2005, Levi Belfield became a suspect in the disappearance of Millie. He had already been convicted of other murders and was living near the area where Millie vanished. Detectives noticed that his prior crimes were close to the location where Millie was abducted. Belfield's ex-girlfriend, Joanna, provided important details during the investigation, which altered the course of the inquiry. Additionally, Gary Farr, another suspect, had sent unsettling letters to Millie's family, making baseless and grotesque allegations. The accusations were untrue and hurtful. Farr was convicted and underwent psychological evaluation. In 2010, Levi Belfield faced charges for Millie's murder. In 2011, the trial found Belfield guilty of kidnapping and killing Millie. He was also sentenced for other assaults. After the trial, Millie's family spoke to the media, sharing how hard the experience was. Sally, the mother of Millie, expressed sorrow for her daughter's unfulfilled aspirations and the irreplaceable loss. In 2017, Millie's sibling Gemma wrote a book about their family's trial and their experience through the misfortune. After his sentencing, Levi Belfield converted to Islam and expressed a desire to change his name to Yusuf Rahim. But Millie's family viewed this change skeptically and hoped that he would never be set free. Before we dive into our next story, if you could take a moment to hit that like button, it would mean the world to us. A single click for you is a huge boost of encouragement for us. Carol Hutto was born in Largo, Florida on February 6, 1960. She grew up in a large family with 4 siblings and a stepbrother named Jerry. Although not much is known about Jerry, it was evident that he and Carol shared a close bond. Jerry held his sister in the highest regard and always went out of his way to fulfill her requests. On December 13, 1976, Carol, her mother Norma, and Jerry were at home on a seemingly normal evening. While Norma was making dinner and Jerry was getting ready to leave, a call interrupted their evening. Norma answered and discovered the call was from one of Carol's friends. After taking the phone, Carol whispered into it for a few minutes before abruptly hanging up. After the call, Carol appeared delighted and animated. Carol told her mom she was heading to a nearby store and would be back soon. The shop, being close to their house, led Norma to believe her daughter would return within an hour. Nevertheless, Carol didn't return that night. At approximately 10 p.m., Jerry got home and, without knowing where Carol was, tried to soothe his mother. After waiting briefly, Jerry went out to search for his sister but couldn't find her. At the shop, the employees confirmed Carol hadn't been there. Norma and Jerry waited all night for Carol, but she never returned. Norma, distraught, reported to the police that her daughter was missing. At first, the police thought Carol left on her own and couldn't help until 24 hours passed. Norma and Jerry didn't agree and searched by asking neighbors and looking around. The community was deeply concerned and rallied together in the search for Carol. Later, the police joined in the search effort as well. They found a camera outside the store Carol was going to, but it didn't show her. There weren't many cameras in 1976, so it was hard to investigate. On December 14, 1976, Jerry made a sad discovery. Carol's body was floating face down in Largo Lake near a construction site. Jerry told the Largo police and had to let his mother Norma know, which was very tough for him. It was determined that Carol's death was not accidental. She was attacked and thrown into the water while she was still breathing. Investigators collected hair strands from her body for evidence, despite the lack of DNA testing at that time. Authorities originally suspected Jerry, but they found no indication against him. The inquiry stopped without any progress, and Carol Hutto's murder became an unsolved case. In 1994, Brad Hoyes, an ex-cop, looked again into the case. He found Carol's diary, where she talked about a hidden fling with James Brian Quinn. His nickname was Jimmy. He was born on July 20, 1959, and he and Carol attended Largo High School together. Despite gossip roaming around school, they kept their relationship secret because of James's family's strictness. James was questioned as Carol's friend during the first investigation. He claimed he hadn't seen her on the night of the murder, yet he attended her funeral, appearing visibly distressed. Years later, detectives asked James to talk to them. They requested a blood sample and used a clever interrogation technique, making him think he was already caught.
That's all I'm asking. I don't need... Jim, are you sorry you killed Carol? That's all I'm asking, Jim. You're sorry, aren't you? I can say you're sorry, Jim. That's all it's going to take.
We know that you didn't mean for this to happen, did you?
You didn't do this intentionally, did you? It was a mistake, right? You didn't plan it.
This approach worked as James confessed to murdering his girlfriend, Carol Hutto. He first said it was accidental, claiming Carol fell into the lake. But her neck and head injuries suggested blunt force and strangulation, which doesn't align with a fall. As the trial neared, James gave a different narrative. An argument turned into a physical fight, causing Carol to scream. In a sudden rage, James struck her with a wooden object and brutally choked her. Next, he got rid of her body in the lake. James's revised account seemed more credible to the detectives, providing sufficient grounds for a murder charge. James went to trial on February 9, 2000, where the prosecution aimed for a first-degree murder conviction. Meanwhile, his defense team admitted his involvement, arguing for a lesser charge of third-degree murder. The jury reached a verdict in just 22 minutes and found James guilty of killing Carol Hutto. Consequently, he received a life sentence that allows no possibility of parole. Before we conclude this video, please be aware that the video on the left may be disturbing. It is recommended for adult viewing only. On the right, you'll find a playlist of videos that have been highly appreciated by our viewers.